And we are live. Welcome, welcome. My name is Heidi Love. I'm your host for Real Life Talk, one of your hosts. I have another host just to the left of me, the right of you. I don't know, right? Depends on your view. And I'm here on the big island of Hawaii today. I'm on the Kona side and I have a nice ocean view right now. So it's kind of a wonderful, sweet spot to be in. And today we are going to talk about sabotage, how we sabotage, how it affects our relationships, and what can we do about it, and where does it come from, and all that juicy stuff. So stay tuned with us today, and probably halfway through the call, I'm going to give you guys something to look forward to. You want to introduce yourself, Timothy?
I'm Timothy Earle. I am on the island of Maui. I do guided medicine work and individual coaching, counseling, and couples as well. And a lot of people enjoy visiting my temple that I have created and stay with us and do all kinds of wonderful work, as well as explore the vortexes that exist on this island that's often called the Heart Island. Heidi would be on the Root Chakra Island since it's got a volcano going off some of the time. And I am so glad to be here today to be talking about how we sabotage things or ourselves or aspects of our life, and why we do it and what we might do differently in order to expand and solidify our successes.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here with me. I always love teaching with you. I get so much out of it. And I was just thinking, we're a part of Love Coach Academy, and Timothy and I both have our own private practices and help people nationwide on Zoom and like in person too, if you're on the island. And we've been doing this about a year. This was a COVID thing. Love Coach Academy started compassion talks, and we all thought, people are stuck at home. It's a pandemic. What can we do? And a bunch of us started doing talks 7 days a week. So there's a lot of support out there, a lot of great teachers. And I was just reflecting on that and feeling gratitude and grateful that that's how Timothy and I connected, and we've been getting to teach together for a year, and that's pretty cool. And we've never even met in person. Someday we're going to have an in-person retreat and teach together.
It's coming. I can feel it.
Yeah. Let's see, where do we want to dive in? I think that there's three things. I was thinking about what is underneath self-sabotage, and it's a loaded topic, right? Pandora's box, open that up. But I think there's three main things, and so maybe we'll start going through those and then jump into something else. And I forgot, if you guys are on Facebook, please comment and talk and ask questions. I'm watching the comment box on Facebook, and I can type back to you. So if I look distracted, I'm just reading the comments, which are also on the screen. And we love to interact with you. And if you're totally needing support today about this topic of self-sabotage, the StreamYard link is in the comments. You can come on video with us. We'll kick you off if you're not coherent. But I'm just kidding.
We're not kidding.
We're not kidding. Yeah, you'll be streamed live and everybody can hear your stuff, and we're not going to take it down. So just know that, it's a live stream and we're happy to support you. I wanted to throw that out there today because I know self-sabotage is such a big thing for all humans. I mean, we've all done it to different degrees. So I am going to let Timothy talk, and I'm going to stream our websites across the bottom so you know how to get a hold of Timothy or I.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes we can move into a belief system or habitual patterns. These are the three sections that we are talking about today. Or we can forget to ask for help. It's a common one, especially amongst many people who have been taught that individuality and doing it on your own is important. So those are the three baskets that we are examining self-sabotage in. And then I think we'll move towards what are some of the solutions. And the one that I'd like to start with is a belief, and that is fear of success. It's common in my own personal life, and I see it with certain clients where, in whatever area, health, fitness, diet, that kind of category, or relationship, or finances, or spirituality, there's often a fear of actually succeeding. And what we see is as people get close to success or arrive at success, they'll actually stop doing the very things they know they need to do in order to get there. And looking deeper at why that is, in my own life, it's been a belief from my family of origin story that I don't deserve, merit the success that's coming my way. And as the success grows closer and closer, that belief of I don't deserve it takes hold. And if I don't watch it, it's almost like cement. It just starts to harden and keeps me from being able to move closer. And it shows up in actions such as procrastination, avoidance, even worse, simply not following through with the next step that's necessary in order to secure the loan or to take responsibility for something or to build a relationship that's essential for that success to continue.
I like that you brought up the word responsibility, because that's one thing that I've thought about. Usually fear of success is more unconscious, I find, than conscious, but it happens for many of us. And when I've really dived into that with people and myself, it can be the fear of the responsibility that comes with the success. If you have an amazing relationship, you got to be responsible to maintain it, right? You got to show up. You got to keep doing the things that made it amazing in the first place. If you start a business and it goes off the ground, it's a little bit scary because there's a lot of responsibility in showing up. And can you show up? Can you maintain the show up? And I think that that's underneath a lot of fear of success, along with self-esteem things like, do I really deserve this? I think survivor's guilt comes in there with people, like, how can I have so much and other people not, or why do I get this and they don't? And that can be an unconscious creep in too, that helps sabotage success.
Yeah, and Heidi made me think of another one, which often happened with me and some of the people I work with in relationship, which is a fear of intimacy. And so you have this beautiful relationship, and out of the fear of intimacy, you start to do things, an addictive thing, such as sexual addiction, looking at pornography, or something that pulls you out of the relationship. Maybe a substance, alcohol, whatever. Maybe going to work and staying at work too much and avoiding the intimacy that's there in the relationship. And when I say fear of intimacy, just to not be generic, fear of being vulnerable with the other person, fear of taking responsibility for your mistakes in the face of the other person, fear of being fully seen, fear of them knowing about the parts of you that feel like you don't deserve this, fear of the responsibility for taking care of yourself and the relationship. And then when you have these doubts, often we move into codependence tendencies, which also then eventually sabotage the relationship if we don't learn to be interdependent with each other. So that's a whole nother aspect of sabotage that can occur in relationship.
Yeah, so any of you that are watching, I'd love for you to type in the comment box if you have a fear of success. Just type yes. And if you know what the fear is, you can type that too. We'd love to hear from you. So do we want to talk about some solutions for fear of success?
Let's see. Do we want to go solutions,
later,
or do we want to go to the second thing of like habitual actions? And then, yeah, I guess we could do solutions with each one as we go. That makes sense.
Timothy and I are planners, we plan way ahead for you guys. So the beliefs that don't serve and fear of success, I think some of the the first solution, I think, is awareness. I always, tell my triple action, triple A's, my triple A spirit, which is awareness, acceptance, action. And unless we're aware of what's underneath, we really can't address it. So all the things we just talked about that sound like the problem are also part of the solution, because if we're not aware of the problem, we can't address it. So getting clear on what is underneath your fear of success. Is it too much responsibility? Is it that I don't deserve it? Is it that success? Do you have beliefs or judgments about successful people that it changes them? I know that my mom didn't like rich people. She thought they were stereotyped in her mind, and that never went away until the day she died. And so is there beliefs around successful people that means something about you, that you'll lose friends? I mean, there can be all kinds of things. So come up with your awareness of what's underneath your fear of success. I know for me, it's being able to maintain what it takes to show up for all that success. I have fear of that sometimes because I have called myself a serial isolationist, and I can just want to run and hide sometimes. And couple that with codependency and perfectionism of having to show up, then you get this like nice little witch's pot of being resentful because I have to show up and I won't take a day off. So for me, it comes down to boundaries. If I can have boundaries, I can face the responsibility and I can enjoy the success.
Yeah, I want to apply the 3 A's that Heidi's talking about to her other wonderful tool, which is the triangle to change your beliefs. And once you're aware of what the underlying belief is that's sabotaging you, then you can take a look at the actions that that belief causes, and then the result that those actions get you. And they usually reinforce the negative or contractive belief. So if we can then go in and replace that belief in a few ways by identifying where it came from, or if we can't identify where it came from, simply asking ourselves, is this actually true? And most of the time we'll realize, for example, no, it's not true that rich people are all bad. There are plenty of nice rich people, and we can find some examples. And so then we start to shift that belief to, there are plenty of nice rich people, and I deserve to be a wealthy person. We may have to look deeper at what's underneath why we think rich people aren't wealthy, but we mine for the cause, we change the belief, we change the actions, we get different results. Now we're reinforcing an expansive thought. And there's a whole talk in real life talk, recovery talk, about the action steps to changing a negative belief. And I encourage you to go and look at my page or Heidi's page or Love Coach Academy and see if you can find it. But that's another really important way. I'm identifying through awareness. We identify what's below the negative belief. We replace it with a new belief. And we can do that in a lot of different ways. And this comes to our third basket, which is it's best, I believe, to get some professional help to do that, to make sure that we're actually changing it. And then comes the fun part of doing the new actions necessary to reinforce the new beliefs.
Yeah, I think that the third thing we're going to talk about today is not getting help. And that's one of the biggest things that keeps us self-sabotaging, because all kinds of things come up. Shame is a big one. I love the acronym for shame. You guys know I love my one-liners and acronyms. Acronym for shame is should have already mastered everything. And so if we have shame that we need help, or maybe we're unaware of something and we need a guide to help us, we will avoid getting that help. And that is self-sabotage. I like to think of, being here in Hawaii, I've taken people through lava tubes, and I've been through lava tubes, and there's two kinds of learners, and this is not bad or good, but there is an easier, softer way than one of these. So you guys pick it out yourself. But you are going to go through a lava tube, And one kind of learner will find the best guide that's been through the lava tube a lot of times. They don't feel bad about it. There's no shame that they've never been through a lava tube. And they're like, hey, I want to go behind you and I want you to show me everything you know. And I want the best experience going through this lava tube. And that person, that's the guide, gives them the safety gears, the tools, sets them up to win, and takes them on a beautiful journey through the lava tube. Then there's recovered addicts like me and people like my youngest daughter that have to learn everything without help. I don't do this anymore. This was my past. I'm all about getting a guide now, man. As quick as I can identify a problem, I am looking for somebody with the solution because I have beat myself up going through lava tubes by myself. So the second kind of person is like I used to be, where it's like, I don't need a guide. I want to go on this adventure through this earth that is, under the earth, totally dark. I have no idea what's in there, and I don't need a flashlight, and I don't need gloves, and I'll find my way out the other end. And then I go in, and I fall down, and I hit my head, and I panic because I don't know which way is out because you can't see the light on either end. I cut myself on the lava, and eventually I make it back to one side or the other, and I didn't die in the process, which is a miracle.
Probably because angels are working overtime to keep her here with us because she's got some things to do still. You're very blessed.
So you can bet that if I can get that awareness, that first A now, I don't self-sabotage. I find the problem, I reach out for help, and I have guides. And I think that there's shame for a lot of people around getting coaching or counseling or going, to a doctor, whatever. We think that we should be able to do this on our own. And you can go through that lava tube alone. No problem. I've done it. It sucks. Or you can get help and have someone guide you and have a much easier journey with more awareness and more joy. I mean, really having help, you can have more joy going through the lava tube. So in lieu of that, I want to encourage you. Timothy and I both offer discovery sessions. They're about 20 to 30 minutes. You can reach out to either one of us on our website. You can find our phone number, text, call, email, however, get a hold of us on Facebook. And you book the session with us. It's 30 minutes and it's complimentary to you. And the reason we do that is we want to help you get clear where you're at. We want to see where you're at and see if we're a fit and if it would be a good idea for us to work together. And if we're not a fit, we have a lot of resources and can usually refer you to somebody that is. We like to work with people that are ready to do the work and want to go through the lava tube without cuts. Just kidding. You might bump into a wall or two. It depends on how well you listen.
I think, we're touching on some things, right? We're touching on belief systems and the process of awareness, actions. But we're also touching on sometimes when we don't want to ask for help, this shame that I'm weak or I'm not enough. Or I didn't do it on my own, so therefore it's not my success. I only was able to do it because Heidi coached me through the lava tube, rather than, hey, I was smart enough to get a coach and I got through the lava tube really easily and in a great way. And so there's a shame spiral there. When I'm working with parents a lot, they often have, if their child's not doing well, this parental shame spiral that they feel like a bad mom or a bad dad. And it's usually not, the kid's actually okay within a regular range, but their view is they're not here. And so that's my fault. And it's really more about their expectations. And we do this to ourselves as well, where we have these lofty expectations rather than really learning to accept what is and what we can do about it. We are living in this futuristic or past realm of, I wish it was like this, and we're spinning in that, the shame, guilt, and we're not actually coming to awareness, presence with what is actually occurring and what can we do with it. Can we make lemonade because we've got lemons, or cherry juice because we've got cherries, as opposed to, I want apples, and we're not really accepting what's going on. So I think coaching, asking for help, really can be stop us from that shame spiral. and help us to get through the lava tube or move forward. The other piece, the third basket that I just want to bring in right now is habitual patterns, which can often be really difficult to look at. I've got a client who is like 12 years old when it comes to cleaning and taking care of things, details, let's call it details, and just is unaware of all the details in his life. And the details keep biting him in the butt and stopping him from moving forward in certain ways. And he's hugely successful and accomplished in other areas of his life. But the details, paying taxes, doing the laundry, changing the oil in the car, getting it made, all these little tiny things, he misses them. And finally, after a lot of work, he's starting to see, oh, I can pay attention to these things. And if I do, and I get them done, the areas that I'm thriving in, I have more space to thrive in. And I get even more out of the things that I enjoy. And he's had to take a look at some of his family of origin stuff and some of his personality. And he has. And if he didn't have help, I think it would have been much further down the road that he began to look at that. So habitual patterns can get in our way, and often they're unconscious as well.
So habits, patterns, and beliefs are huge. That's part of I think, how we sabotage. I was thinking of a way that I used to sabotage a lot, and thinking of the intimacy avoidance, like you mentioned, being afraid of intimacy or intimacy avoidance. And again, Timothy and I dove deep into love addiction and intimacy avoidance in some past talks, so you guys can look those up. Is that I totally lost my train of thought. In the avoidance. I'm avoiding what I was thinking.
Well, attachment style, which you're bringing in, whether we're avoidant, anxious, or disorganized, avoidant, anxious, often that can also be like a very early programmed pattern that gets in the way of us, usually in relationship, but it can show up in other ways. And she's back.
I remembered, had a blank spot. So in relationship, you can, those of you out there listening, you can probably imagine you want so much intimacy, or you have a perfect fantasy day in mind where you might go to the beach and you might do this, and you picture holding hands, and you have this whole lovely image in your mind. And then you get the day with the person, and instead of allowing it to unfold and enjoying the day, you pick a fight, or you somehow bring up complaints. This is something that I did, and I didn't realize that I was ruining the time that was available, and that was a part of me that was an intimacy avoidant. And it wasn't like I was conscious. I didn't want to ruin the day. The best thing that I wanted was to spend time with these people, right? But I would somehow sabotage the time that we had because I was complaining about time we didn't have, or I was, I don't know, any number of ways, but that was a way to sabotage intimacy. So I'm curious if any of you on the call ever did that. You have some time together with the person you want time with, and you somehow sabotage the time. Anybody else done that?
I think of a way that a lot of people do that, and that's avoiding going deep, or avoiding asking a question that goes below the Super Bowl halftime, or goes below within yourself by being vulnerable and open. Even if it's as simple as, I need to own it. I had expectations for today, and today's not going the way I imagined, and it's getting in the way of me enjoying being here with you. Just being that open, that transparent. Notice I didn't blame in my language the other person. I took responsibility for how I feel and the needs the expectations I created. And often just doing that allows the other person to say, oh, thanks for sharing that. Or maybe they'll go into some guilt. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. No, that's not what I meant. I'm just owning this so I can get it out of my way and move deeper into this present moment with you. And then we ask for what we need. You know, what I'd really like is just to be held for 5 minutes, or I'd like to just go sit by myself for 5 minutes, whatever it is, and I'll be back. And then we'll have a great rest of the day, you know?
So I love, you mentioned a couple tools, and we're throwing out tools in that. So in what Timothy just explained is, one is awareness, right? Acknowledging what is real, and then self-sourcing, noticing how am I feeling, what am I needing. I need 5 minutes, I need a hug, I need to be held, to re-arrive in the day. So self-sourcing and knowing what you need. What am I feeling, what am I needing? And it's also wonderful if you have someone that you're with that can be present with you and give empathy and maybe help meet those needs. And that's not always the case. So self-sourcing is really important. But if I was to give Timothy empathy, if I was to give Timothy right now to Timothy, if he, was in that scenario, I was disappointed, I had an expectation, and instead of taking shame on or feeling guilt, let's say we were having the day together, and I could say something like, I'm really hearing that you're disappointed and you had this thought of what the day was going to look like, and it's not arriving that way. And I'm imagining that you're pretty disappointed right now and maybe feel like the day is shot.
Yeah, thanks for hearing me and saying that so clearly. That feels good.
Yeah, and then the person could ask, if you're giving the empathy, you could get curious and say, what are you needing? How can we turn this day around? So both people can do it. He can self-source and say, hey, this is what I'm needing. I need 5 minutes, or I need a hug, I need to take a walk so I can arrive again. Or the person that's with and giving the empathy can get curious and ask what the need is and help change the day around too.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I'm thinking of another way this client of mine has identified she self-sabotages. She isolates when she's having a hard time with someone, literally goes usually to the bed or the couch, covers herself and isn't asleep, but is deep within, and avoids, probably an avoidant, avoids all contact with the person or people that are in her mind causing the issue. And even when we're in coaching sessions, she'll usually start out there. And by just sitting with her, reassuring her that she can be open, encouraging her to just share whatever it is, she'll start talking. The minute she does start sharing, and this is the advice, she starts to feel lighter and better, usually moves into her feeling state because she's shared what's going on in her belief state, her story state, the things she tells herself, moves into the feelings underneath it, and then she comes beautifully down into what it is that she's actually needing. And then she's got a course of action that she can plot. And so I'm actually offering empathy as a coach by being curious about what's going on, but she's meeting me by turning her isolation walled off thing around and opening up and just beginning to talk. I think a lot of us, at least I'll own, I do it sometimes, go to, I don't want to talk. I got to do this all myself. I don't want to burden anyone. Oh, this is awful. And we're just sitting in this room with no doors or windows, and this little ball is just bouncing around like crazy and it won't stop. And the minute we actually create a door and open it up and start talking, eventually the ball bounces out of the room, slows down, we're able to think creatively, and we're able to come. So again, asking for help doesn't have to just be a coach or a guide. It can be just opening up, being vulnerable, telling people the messiness that's going on inside of your head responsibly and the feelings you're having. And then if they can listen, it can be so helpful, like Heidi was able to do with me. And she pointed out it can go both ways.
And that's something I think is so important in partnership. And when I'm coaching couples, it's something I bring up over and over and over again, is mutual responsibility. Because oftentimes, especially when a couple first come, they're kind of like hoping that I will pick sides and be the judge or referee of who's doing what wrong and fix them, right? Like that's why most people go. Not always. Some of us want to learn skills and get ahead, but a lot of times there's problems and it's like they're the problem, and it's kind of gets like that. So mutual responsibility is something that's so important in any relationship, but especially in a coupleship. And I like to give scenarios of how each person could have caught it, because there's going to be days where your partner is totally coherent and maybe you're not, and they can catch you. And there's going to be days where you can catch them. And what I mean by catching them isn't by telling on them or punishing them, not that kind of catch. I mean catch in your arms, like they're having a hard time, and you catch them, you hold them, you bring out what the feeling or need might be. A good example of that is like, I might say something, and again, Timothy and I can role play this if you're willing. I might say something to Timothy, and my brain is just like, I'm losing thoughts today. It's really frustrating. Have anybody had the shot and had that happen? It's been happening.
I got the second shot today, and I will report that it was easier than the first shot so far. So.
Okay, good. I'm not trying to bag on it. I'm all for it. I've just noticed that I lose my words, and it's really frustrating, especially when you're a public speaker. So, gosh, I'm having shame right now about it. So
yeah, I'm curious if there's something that's distracting you.
I don't think it's that. It's been going on for a couple weeks since my first shot. Yeah. It's
because I know Heidi has something fun planned for after this call, and so I just thought maybe that was like,
it's honestly not. I'm literally just losing the words, and it's been happening. It's kind of
what you were about to do. What you were about to do was probably role model with me, just an example of how we can self-sabotage in some.
And we can catch each other. The mutual responsibility in coupleship.
Oh yeah.
Talking about. Yeah. And so if I say something to Timothy in a nice way and he hears it in a way that I wasn't delivering it, instead of getting mad at me, or instead of me getting mad at him, I can check in with him and say, hey, I'm wondering what you heard me say, because by your reaction, I'm not sure that it came across right. And then get curious with the person. Where normally, if they react poorly to what you said, you're like, you didn't hear me. I don't know why you're saying that. Why are you reacting that way? And it can turn into a fight really easy. So that's like one way to catch your partner, is if they react to you poorly and you weren't delivering something that you think would match that reaction, you can check in with them. Like, can you tell me what you heard me say? That's one example of catching your partner.
I call it
human, Heidi. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thank you.
Yeah, you've got a lot of support today. I call it fact checking. So Heidi might say something. This is how we can both do it together. So Heidi said something I'm like, I don't like that. And rather than lean out and go, she doesn't understand, or she said something that's really off, because I'm feeling off, and I know that Heidi's my partner, I trust her, I wouldn't be with her if I didn't. I lean in and I say, hey, can I tell you what I just heard? Because I may have heard it wrong, or it didn't feel right to me. I felt confused, or I felt hurt, or whatever it was by it. And then Heidi says, yeah. And so I repeat back to her what I heard, and probably 9 times out of 10, she's going to say, that may be what I said, but that's not what I meant. She'll reframe it, or she'll say, actually, you missed a word. I really said the opposite of that. And sometimes it's because we're moving fast. I'm doing the dishes. Heidi drops her keys, runs to the bathroom, and is yelling something as she goes, and I hear only half of it. And I imagine the other half. So it is important in any kind of relationship, work, family, lovership, that we actually take the time to call each other in and fact check our communication, because we are not perfect communicators, even those of us who've really worked at it.
And giving each other the benefit of the doubt. And that's what Timothy just explained. Like, if you hear something from your partner and it is triggering to you, and you go at them like they meant to do that, instead of getting curious and fact checking, you're not giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're creating defensiveness because they feel judged. And if you're in front of a judge, what do you need? You need a good defense. So if we can come at people in a way that is not judging, but asking and getting curious and fact checking, that causes connection rather than disconnection. So these are tools to not sabotage communication.
You just brought up another way that, and I usually find this one with men that I'm working with, that they sabotage all kinds of relationships with two things that they do, which is defend and attack. And they do that, I'm convinced, because they've been taught that that's what men do through sports, athletics, competition, defend and attack. And that's probably the worst form of communication to achieve at a common goal. So if you're in a board meeting or in a relationship or with your family, and you actually want to achieve unity, success in whatever area it is you're working on, then rather than get defensive or attack, much better to practice empathy, be curious, open, and lean in and try to fact check and figure out what's really going on. Is this something that got triggered in me for no reason? Or is there something really big on the table that needs to be addressed? And even then, try to do it without getting defensive or without attacking. Heidi brought up the court system. It's an area that works that way. You know, you are the victim, you are the perpetrator, you are the bad person, you are the good person. You know, prove it. It's attack, defend, rather than restorative justice, which approaches it from we're all people, and we all have something to learn here, and we're all going to be held accountable.
We have a question in the comment box. What about the situation where the avoidant person closes off and refuses to speak? Any ideas of how to get the avoidant back into communication?
That's a hard one, isn't it? I know with me, when I get triggered into my avoidant pattern, it's best to actually give me space and leave me alone, which is difficult if I'm in relationship with an anxious or disorganized person, because they're going to get anxious and they're not going to be able to probably give me the space that I need. And so then it perpetuates and the avoidant shuts down, moves further and further away, and the anxious person gets more and more anxious and moves closer and closer. So holding self-sourcing helps to allow somebody who needs space, you self-source, give them that space, and asking them a simple thing of, you know, it looks like you need space. How much space? How much time do you need? When can we talk about this again? And that works for me anyway. When people do that with me, oh, thank you. They're not coming at me. They're not attacking me. And they're not blaming me. They recognize that I'm triggered. I'm flooded. And they're offering me a way out. They're offering me space, and they just simply want to know, when can I talk to them? And often I'll be able to say, I need 15 minutes or I need 3 days, and then we'll come back to it. The hard part for an avoidant is often 3 days later, they're still avoiding. And I think that's the opportunity then to say, hey, we said we talked about this 3 days ago. Can we talk about it now? You know, that's not always fun to be in relationship with someone like that. So if you are the person that shuts down and gets like that, I think it's important to get some help and work on some ways to learn other mechanisms, other tools to deal with your emotions when you get triggered and want to shut down. I don't think it's really fair to put all the work on the other partner. I'm kind of putting it on the other partner right now. I think that would get tedious. I know it has for some of my past partners.
My thoughts on to answer that question, how do you get the avoidant back into communication? If there's a possibility of it, that I think it requires a lot of safety. And Timothy just shared one of the ways to create safety, which is offering space and recognizing, like acknowledging that they're in that space. An avoidant that is not communicating, if they are aware they're avoidant, they can be working on it and arrive again. If they're unaware that they're avoidant, it's very hard to bring an avoidant back into conversation. And I do really recommend help, especially if this is hurting the relationship. I think even with, I attract avoidance like magnets. I'm a love avoidant attractor. And even with the 20 years of teaching and learning and research and schooling that I've had and the skills that I have, if the avoidant isn't working on themselves, or if we don't have help, like we have had to have help in the relationship. I can't, as an individual, get the avoidant back into conversation if they're not aware that they're doing anything. And even if you're trying to make them aware, it pushes them farther away. And so it is a tricky situation, and safety is needed. And so those curious questions of what would help you feel safer to talk, and having a third person help you with that, set it up between the two people that are in this kind of dynamic, is a lot safer than the one that is the talker trying to give the suggestions to make the rules to make it safe for the avoidant. So it's a tricky one. It's a painful one. I've been on the receiving end of avoidance, and I've also been the avoidant.
And if you're not ready, I was there, and I probably am there in other aspects of my life. I'm being humble here. But as an avoidant tendencies, when I got triggered, I often would flip it on my partner, make it their fault, do all kinds of tricky things that I wasn't aware I was doing fully. And that doesn't mean I'm not responsible for that. I own my responsibility in that. But the other partner, I'm sure it was really frustrating because they were trying to point something out to me over and over and over, and I just wasn't ready to see it. And I didn't get the right help and often would refuse help. I think when you're with someone like that, it's important to recognize they're not ready to see something, and I need to do myself a favor and take care of myself and leave the relationship, or get really strong boundaries that allow you to have the life that you want. But this can come up in lots of areas, right? Someone could have an addiction. Someone can have a anger issue. There can be lots of different ways. Someone's depressed, and bipolar, and they're not willing to look at it and do the things they need to do to manage that, or better yet, to change it and improve their lives. And until they're aware and willing, it's not going to happen, no matter how much you bark at them, no matter how many books you get them to try to get them to read.
And I want to offer empathy to you who asked the question, that if you're in that situation, that it is terribly lonely. I have been in that situation where I'm trying to ask, trying every skill I have, trying to do it as nice as possible, non-judgmental as possible, in whatever amount of topic, and get zero response. And it's absolutely lonely and painful. And so I just want to, give my heart to that, if that's happening for you, that it's really, that's lonely and painful. Those are the words that come up for me around it. And it's also confusing, and it's also maddening, because you feel so powerless, like there's nothing you can do, and it's just a very hopeless, powerless feeling. And I'm not leaning into the hopelessness. There's hope, and there's help, and there's stuff around it, but we can't control others, and we're wanting so badly to connect, and the other person, for whatever reason, can't do it. Then it's hard.
Yeah, and as the avoidant goes more and more avoidant, and the other partner typically at some point goes, okay, I'm out of here, I'm pulling away, often that can drag that avoidant back in, and you get into this push-pull thing that, again, without help and without the avoidant coming to awareness, both people actually in this case, then you don't stop that, and it can get really, it can hurt a lot on both ends.
So I just noticed I had to block someone. We had Rog, or I don't know his name, somebody on YouTube, I think, watching the live stream, that said we sucked. So I just want to put his voice out loud. Everyone deserves to be heard, and he said we sucked. Right. But I had to block him because he said a bunch of other things too. So
and we're
I didn't
ugly.
want him to go totally unheard.
Yeah. This stream sucks so bad. You suck. You're dumb. LOL. He's laughing out loud. And you're ugly. Well,
so
thank
this
you.
Is very funny, Timothy, and I'm going to get really vulnerable right now. So one of the fears I have of success and of being out in the world or being public, this was a big deal for me to even be on Facebook. And I got very public in the last probably 5 years. Before that, I just hid. And one of the fears I have of success is dealing with that, is being, I try to avoid I used to really try to avoid controversial topics. I didn't want all that negative feedback. I didn't want to argue with people on, whatever. And I'm still I try to stay out of that for the most part. And this is one of the reasons that I always hid and didn't want success. I didn't want to be known. I didn't want to be in the limelight. Another fear that comes underneath that is having to be perfect. Like if I'm doing this, I feel like my life has to be perfect. And I have a story to tell about that. So I loved this author of a book, and I took my ex-husband to go see him speak. And we were really into the book. We were learning it and watching it. And we went and watched the speaker, and then we go out back during the break, and my ex-husband saw him smoking a cigarette, and he had talked about how smoking cigarettes kind of lowers your frequency or whatever in the book. And so that was it for my ex-husband. He was like, I don't believe anything this guy says. He's back there smoking a cigarette and blah blah blah. Being a recovered addict, I was like, you're an asshole, to my ex-husband, thinking in my head. I didn't say that, but I was like, come on. I mean, people are human. All people are human. Humans that are living, breathing, we all have problems. So what I'm trying to say right now is I'm not perfect. I don't pretend to be perfect. I have relationship issues just like you all do. The difference is I get a guide that takes me through the lava tube, and I have skills that I try to apply, and I keep trying to apply the acceptance, awareness, action principle. Am I aware of my stuff? Can I share it with someone else? Because to me, what intimacy means is being self-aware enough that you can share it with another human being and they can do with you. And to me, that's intimacy. So that's my little soapbox of why I don't want to be public, because people like whoever I just blocked. And now I can kind of laugh at it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I go to a different place. I go to two different things. First thing that comes up to me, that it didn't this time, but first thing that comes up to me often is a defense, right? That defense attack mode where I get really protective of, say, you or of our space and want to kind of shut the person down. The second thing that can come in sometimes is an opposite response where it's like I try to take care of them, be too curious about like, well, what's going on and how do I correct the situation and why doesn't he like our talk and blah, 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 blah. And then the last place that I really work to come to is in the center, where I just have empathy for anyone who needs to attack or hurt other people in order to somehow validate themselves. Or I've had clients, people from the past, who feel that I wronged them or hurt them or did something, and they'll lash out at me. Not many, but it's happened. I have many more who call me and thank me and help me and appreciate the help that I gave them. And that can often get into where then it makes me go, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be a coach. This guy's not satisfied with our talk, or that self-doubt. And again, coming back to empathy, there are people who are hurting so bad that their only recourse is to hurt others or to lash out. And I hope that somehow, it's a really difficult state to coach people who put themselves into a victim place or into an attack kind of bulldog role, which is still a victim, and they don't notice it and don't see it. They can really be hurtful to themselves, to the people around them, and others. And it's a hard one to coach.
Yeah. I'm going to read a couple of the comments. Hi, Loyal, glad you're on the call. He said, if it sucks so bad, why is he still watching or trying to watch it? I like that. Thanks for that humor. Hi, Melanie and Anna Prabha. That's all very helpful. It's like walking on eggshells phenomena, and I can't remember what that was referring to. Good dialogue tonight. Yes, each other in fact checking for all the relations. And then there was a name mentioned, Teresa Bell. Is that an author, or I don't know who that is? Anyway, wanted to read those. Thank you guys. We always love your comments. Karen says, I will always be grateful, Timothy. So yeah, some comments on what you got out of today's call for two reasons. One, it's a way to contribute to us. We love to hear what you got out of the call. And two, it helps your brain. When you acknowledge something you learned, it sticks like 10 times better than it does if you don't acknowledge it. So I'd love to hear in the comment box just one thing you got out of today's call. And yeah, that'd be fun to read if you guys want to type those in.
You know, a fun question I ask myself and some clients around success is, if you knew that you would fail, absolutely certain you would fail, but you had something so great and so grand that you wanted to do in your life, that you would go ahead and risk, knowing that you're going to fail, you'd go ahead and risk it just to try. So I'm just reversing the question, because often people say, you know,
So
why don't
say
you
it
go
again. Say it again.
So the common way of saying it is, where are you afraid of failure? And then go ahead and go after that. And I'm flipping it around. Where are you certain that you'll fail, but you really wish you could go and do that thing? And you wish and you want it so bad that you're even willing to just go ahead and fail just for the pleasure of trying. If you find something like that in your life, I bet that if you keep at it, you won't fail, because you've got this strong desire in your heart. You've got this burning passion to do that. You're willing to totally fail at it no matter what. And you're going to go ahead and try it anyway, because this person seems so amazing to you, or this job, or this climbing through this tunnel, or whatever it is, you know. For me, the most recent example was cancer. And I thought, I may die. And the chemo and radiation was extremely painful. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and die doing this. And if I get through it, I'm going to dedicate my life to following the mystery and watch what unfolds, and absolutely present, and less in the future, less in the past. Whew, I'm lucky I didn't fail. Cancer's gone, and I've really been enjoying the mystery. I'm so glad about it. But I was willing to go ahead and die. If that's what happened, I was ready to risk that kind of failure. And I was not willing to not at least give it a try to cure myself and to live. That's kind of a dramatic example, but we might think of, you know, somebody who wants to race a car and goes and does a class and learns how to race a car and drives that car around the racetrack and was thinking, I'd never do this. So identify places in your life where you're really wanting to do something, and go ahead and do it.
It's really touching what you shared, Timothy, and I'm glad that you share so deeply on these calls, and just touched by your inspiration to the ultimate failure of death, and that you didn't, and you're here and you're living, and that's just so beautiful. And especially after talking with my dad, and you know that's a topic close to my heart. And I want to read some of these comments. I so resonate with what you're saying, Heidi, about feeling you need to be perfect and have a fear and not being rejected. And then Karen says, of course, you too, Miss Heidi, but I was referring to grief therapy when she said, be grateful for Timothy. Thank you, Karen. I love your dedication, Karen. It always blesses my heart. You're on all of our calls, and it's just so sweet. And we love your presence. So thank you. Because I think you are amazing and have so much respect for you, and you make me laugh. Yay, I love to make people laugh. It's one of my goals in life. So I was talking to a lady yesterday, cut her hair, And that's my new hobby, you guys, my creative hobby, you know, doing beauty on the inside and out. And so she said something to the effect of, you know, life is short and you only live this time. Like, really do whatever it is you want to do. Just do it. Like, and that was a kind of that inspiring message that Timothy just gave. And it touched my heart. It touched my heart when I heard it yesterday. And sometimes huge loss or fear of death or having death. I mean, it was my brother's death that gave me that gift of really wanting to embrace life. And I forget. I get, you know, caught up in the mundane things and I need to be reminded. And so I love hearing these things like that sweet woman shared with me yesterday and like Timothy shared today. Do you want to read through the comment there, Timothy?
Well, the last one, the most recent one, is that I went through breast cancer. My page is, I saved my life, not my boobs. My ex's last words to me was, I think you're the one that had your other boob cut off. This has been hard for me. And so I'm a little confused, but I get some feeling that this person's partner wasn't absolutely supportive, or it was hard for them. And I find it interesting when we're struggling with a health or a major life change, who shows up, who's empathetic, I had friends who just, they talked to me afterwards and said, sorry, I wasn't around. I just couldn't deal with the idea of you dying. And so I avoided you. And at least they came back and told me that, right? And told me that their absence was not lack of love. It was fear that got in their way. And so, yeah, a lot of us deal with our partners, our families, our friends deal with our crises in different ways. And some people are hugely supportive and others can't be, and others run away.
Mm-hmm. I want to share empathy with, I won't say your name. Sometimes I say names, sometimes I don't, but I just want to share empathy. You also mentioned that he was cheating and just that the trauma of going through losing a body part, whatever it is. And I know for being a woman that we really identify with femininity with our breasts, many of us do. And I'm not trying to stereotype, so maybe you feel different, but I'm trying to give empathy of where I might, if I could put myself in those shoes of losing your breasts and making a decision and facing death. And then to have the person you want to be there supporting you, loving you, seeing your beauty in all of that, and then to have that kind of betrayal go on at the same time would be absolutely devastating. And again, I'm not supporting the person that was doing that. I could also hold empathy for whatever they were going through, because there's always pain on both sides of relationships, and people that cheat are also in pain and they have their own story. But I just want to give you a hug right now. I mean, losing your breasts and losing your partner and being betrayed like that all at the same time is absolutely devastating.
And I want to honor your courage and your decision to save your life. And I am confident that there's a part of you that knows that your beauty is deep and resonates from within you and not just from your breast, that you are a whole, complete person still. And again, I want to honor your courage, because I know how difficult cancer and cancer treatments are.
Yeah, and honor that there is beauty in all kinds of things. And I want to just, if you're wanting it, my wish would be that you can look in the eyes of somebody that sees your whole body as beautiful again, and that you can look in the mirror and see your body as beautiful again. And I've shared many times about my body and my epiphany of waking up one day realizing I'm stuck with this body the rest of my life. I'm either going to love it or I'm not. And I chose to love it that day. And I quit caring if you loved it or not, because if you didn't, you weren't my person. So I think we have to come to a close.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today. It's nice to have so many people here. And Please know that you can find our past talks at lovecoachacademy.com or on Timothy Earle or Heidi Love's Facebook pages. You'll have to kind of scroll. On Love Coach Academy, it's a little complicated, but you can find all of Recovery Talk or Real Life Talks. And we've also done some together called Mondays with the Ohana. There's a lot of wonderful information there, and we'll see you next week for another talk.
Yeah, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Hawaii time. Aloha. Please pass this on to your friends if you got something out of it. We love it when you share. Take care. Oh, I want to read one more thing before we go offline. There's a really long comment, so we'll end with that. I risked traveling during the pandemic to spend time with a very special person of who I've known since '98. They're in the last stages of their life and resonate how Timothy noted about the other person lashing out while being in pain, pushing me away. I spent 3 months being supportive and empathetic, but death didn't scare me, but the suffering I witnessed broke my heart every day. It's goodbye, and I was reminded how fragile love of 20 years simply is cherished in my heart for him and will always be. So, thank you guys, and thank you for all the deep shares today, and thank you for being on our call.